Well, we all know that young Americans helped the president secure the White House in 2008. In fact, he captured 68% of the youth vote, a record-breaking 24 million young folks coming out at the polls. But this time around, the landscape, of course, has shifted, as just more than half now approve of the president in that demo, according to the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll. Maybe that is because recent college grads, even though they are now starting to get jobs a little better than they were, they are not earning nearly enough to pay their bills. In fact, the average annual salary for a new graduate with a bachelor's degree is down on average $10,000 from just 2 years ago. At the same time, the amount of student debt that they carry has soared 47% in just the past decade, which leaves cash-strapped grads with what? Well, the ability to move back in with mom and dad. New numbers show 85% of new grads are moving back home. Talk about cramping your style. Our specialist today on the youth vote, former CEO of MTV Networks International, Bill Roedy, author of What Makes Business Rock, Building the World's Largest Global Networks. And Bill, it's a pleasure to have you here. Perhaps nobody built a more powerful network than Barack Obama in 2008 with his utilization of modern technology, the social media, and ultimately engagement of the youth vote. At the same time, he has become less popular with some of those supporters, and that is seen as a very valuable audience and also one of the more fickle and fast-changing and fleeting audiences that any person, politician or otherwise, could try to court. When you get them and you lose them, can you get them back?
You can always get them back. But when you said build the largest network, I thought you were going to say MTV, which we have over the 175 countries around the world. Young people you're right, they're fickle, they're on the go, they get disillusioned easily, they're the most idealistic, and they're the least patient. So, yeah, you got to show them results, particularly when, in this country, you're leaving them with a lot of baggage. So you got to work it. Definitely got to work it.
James?
Bill, I saw you on Morning Joe the other day, and you made a very interesting point, which is when you talk about the youth movement out there and how they function, their daily lives. It's type, it's talk on the phone, it's texting while driving, they're peripatetic, they all have ADD. I have a question. Explain to me how it is that you've got a group of people, 18 to 34, the graphic that just showed it. Tell me how that group of people is going to go and vote for a Newt Gingrich or a Ron Paul or, let's see, a Mitt Romney or a Mike
kids
Huckabee.
Like Ron Paul. Ron Paul's big with the kids,
Yeah,
Jimmy.
you know what?
Right.
Here's the thing. If I'm 18 to 34, the last person I'm going to vote for is some 80-year-old dude that runs around saying we ought to legalize heroin.
That's just because you didn't like your grandfather.
I love my grandfather. My point is simple. Bill, tell me how those people don't flock back to Barack Obama.
Yeah, get some therapy, right? I don't think age is that big of a deal. I mean, young people relate to people closer in their demo. And yes, Barack Obama is and was certainly in the election a rock star. So, no question about that. But, well, I'm not sure if it's youth related. The Republicans, and believe me, I live in London, so I'm talking out of school, I suppose. But, you have to feel the good candidate's going to appeal to young people, no question, regardless of your age. I think McCain actually did appeal to young people, so I'm not sure it's an age
But he
thing
only got
completely.
30%. But he only got 30%.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe that's policy and not age related. I don't know.
Susan?
Oh, hi, Bill. I'm just wondering, I disagree somewhat with Jimmy as far as the problem being that, who else are they going to vote for? I think getting them to get up and vote will be a bigger problem for Barack Obama, and that's where he's probably more concerned. But regardless if it's a Republican or a Democrat, how are we going to convince people to actually get up and go vote right now? Because it seems like they're more frustrated than ever.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Energizing the people to vote is really the key. And, MTV's played a big role in that over the years. We started in '92 when we invited, Clinton and Bush both on the channel. Clinton said yes, and Bush said no, and, a lot of young people came out and voted for Clinton. So, you can't ignore the vehicles, and, you gotta do what you can to work the vote. And now it's all about social media. So, yeah, no, and we've done this all around the world, by the way. We've had voting campaigns all around the world, choose or lose, get out there and vote, and it works. When young people vote, the energy in the election is much higher. And, you know, when you have a dysfunctional political system, not saying this one is.
Oh, it is. It is. No, you can. This is like a therapy session. We're all coming to terms with that. But yes, we pretty much are there.
Okay, well, remember, I do business in China and Russia. So, you know, there's a long way to go. But you know, if it does seem dysfunctional, you know, and you got two sides that are completely polarized, and, you know, you can't split the middle with this huge problem, yeah, that can be, you know, somewhat disillusioning and say, is my vote going to count? So, yeah, no, I would agree.
And is it the concern, Karen? I know you had a question, but I have a question for you before you ask a question, that as you amplify disengagement because of the alienation that Bill's talking about, that it benefits the more extreme components in general. As people leave, those who are the most extreme gain more power.
You mean the more extreme candidates?
More extreme candidates, more extreme voters, more extreme ideology. Those are the extremities in general accumulate more influence as the more moderate voters are alienated by the dysfunction and disengage.
Sure. I mean, that's part of why I think in the Republican primary there will be people who could probably pose the greatest threat to Barack Obama in a general election will never get through it. But I take a slightly different view of the youth vote, because this is something we worked on very hard when I was at the DNC, and we did see, despite what most people think, increases in the youth vote from 2004, and 2008 obviously was a record number, where the first time we had more young people voting than seniors. But if you look at this demographic, and this is the question I want to pose, because I disagree with Jimmy that it's like, oh, I'm just not going to vote for the white-haired guy, but if you look at the tendencies and the values of these young people, they are blacker, they are browners, they are more multicultural, they are more likely to be interracially dating, they are more likely to be tolerant of gay marriage, they are more likely to be tolerant of, you know, single parenting homes. I mean, so they are just a much different generation, and they are much more service oriented. I think a lot of what motivated them the last time was the way that Obama really engaged them in the process. So it seems to me Barack Obama is going to be the only person who's going to appeal to that, given that the GOP just doesn't
I guess the ultimate question, for me, I would argue that it's not about whether the GOP can beat him. It's a question of whether Barack Obama appears to be just as much of a disappointment as the GOP, and his rhetoric being soaring and his policy being alienating, which I guess we'll find out. You want the last word here real quick?
No, I was just going to say don't ignore him, and I would agree that those are some of the attributes of young people today. Anyway.
And thanks to Barack, they have health care, by the way.
And that and some money printing to funnel into the insurance monopolies. As long as Barack keeps the money printers on to give to the employer-based health insurance monopolies, everybody will be fine. The book, Bill Roedy's What Makes Business Rock. The panel does rock. James Williams, he's now on Twitter. You should check him out, at Jimmy's Politics. It's worth a look. Susan Del Percio, I'm sure to appear in all sorts of places, including, I know, New York one, and we'll probably get her a Twitter account. We'll bully her into it at some point. And then Karen Finney, at Finney K on the Twitter. It's, again, the panel that rocks. Thanks, you guys.